new video. Who dis? Apple Silicon is going to be made in the USA. You'll be able to drive away an Apple car for less than 100 grand in 2026, and you're not going to see Apple's VR headset as soon as you thought, but you might see some MacBooks instead. Plus, where the f*** have I been? Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. So we'll quickly address the elephant in the room first. Where have I been? When you go from basically doing daily videos to a week or so without posting, you kind of need to do a huge comeback. But that's not the case. My brain has told me that I need to do new graphics, new background music, and all those things. But none of that really matters. So, should we talk about Apple stuff? So first of all, Apple Silicon is going to be made in the US and a
greatest country in the world
very soon, which is exciting. Arizona is getting its own TSMC factory. We kind of knew that this was going to happen, but it also looks like they are going to have the cutting-edge chips. They're going to have those 3nm goodness. And Tim Cook himself has tweeted out saying, Apple Silicon unlocks a new level of performance for our users, and soon many of these chips may be stamped Made in America. The opening of TSMC's plant in Arizona marks an era of advanced manufacturing in the US, and we are proud to become the site's largest customer. And this is cool. He was actually at the kind of, I don't know if it's the groundbreaking of the event. There is a dump truck behind him, which they appear to have hidden in a flag, so that's fun. But yeah, it just looks like Apple is going to be making as many of their chips as they can at TSMC in the US, which is great. I guess it probably reduces taxes, imports, all that sort of stuff for them. I don't think the tariffs exist in the way that they did previously, but I think this is a good thing. I don't live in America. I don't have the patriotism stuff going on that a lot of you guys do, but yeah, it's great, if nothing else, to just diversify where stuff's coming from so that they don't have to rely on China and Taiwan quite so much, which they're already doing with assembling iPhones, and that can only be a good thing because when stuff goes down, I know China has finally reduced their lockdownage of COVID stuff, which is great, but it also, when big sort of geopolitical events happen, it's good that they can go, oh, well, we'll just do more of it here and less of it here. Handy. Next up, you will be able to drive away in an Apple car for less than 100 grand in 2026. So we have new rumours coming out that, in fact, Apple Car is still on the cards. It looks like 2026 is the earliest we'll be able to see it, and it looks like it's going to be under 100 grand, which sounds like a ridiculous amount of money because it very much is. However, there are certainly things like a Model X Tesla, I think, starts at like 116. So it's not out of the realm of reality. But I think it's also important that we remember Apple Car is not, as far as we know, based on some of the patents that we've seen, going to be like any other kind of car. It seems to be almost entirely self-driving. It doesn't seem like there's going to be even an option to drive it yourself. It doesn't appear that it's going to have a steering wheel, for example, which I've always found really useful when driving my own car. But $100,000, right, that is quite expensive, but bear in mind that this is a car that also, if it is fully self-driving, there is the possibility that you could have it set in some sort of Uber mode, where it can become, I don't know, someone else's ride and earn you money while you're not using it. That might be quite useful. Obviously, I'm 100% sure this is going to be fully electric. I don't imagine for a second that Apple would put a combustion engine into something that they're making, because those are dead, regardless of what other people are telling you. Also, hydrogen, not a thing. Hit me up in the comments. But yeah, it seems that Apple is moving ahead full steam with the Apple Car. I would like to talk more about Apple Car. Are you actually interested in it? Let me know in the comments any questions you have about Apple Car, because I would like to make a video about that. But I don't want to make it if nobody gives a crap. And you're apparently not going to see the Apple VR AR headset as soon as we expected. We were hoping to see this thing in January of next year, which would have made a lot of sense, because that kind of, I feel like they would have done it on the same date maybe, or very much around the same date that the original iPhone was released. That would be kind of an indication to the world that this is as big as iPhone. It seems like it's being pushed back though, and it doesn't seem to be because of hardware issues, but software stuff. And that kind of makes sense because we were hearing only a couple of months ago that Apple is still recruiting software engineers. And I'll be honest, that seems a little bit late if they were planning on releasing this thing, or at least announcing it in January. I have a feeling that maybe that was the plan, and they were bringing in these guys to refine it, and these guys have come in and sort of said, yeah, you're really not on the right track here. So I think they're pushing it off. I think maybe we'll see some reveal of the SDKs and maybe some development hardware at WWDC in June. That would make sense, kind of like they did with Apple Silicon, and then maybe an autumn, maybe November release. And I think that Apple might even tease those dates because they're not going to cannibalize any of their own products. People are not going to go, well, I'm not buying a Mac because the headset's coming out, or I'm not buying a new iPhone because the headset's coming out. But they might stop buying Facebook's ones. But we're also hearing, and we've seen leaked benchmarks for M2 Max MacBook Pros. We assume it's MacBook Pros. These Geekbench numbers have come out, and I'm going to say quite confidently they look very 5nm. I know there were people out there really hoping, Vadim, that this was going to be a 3nm chip. It's not, is it? It's clearly not. The single core numbers look basically as we would expect for M2. The multi-core, obviously a little bit higher, and it looks like it's 12 cores, which is kind of cool, because that means there's a little bit more leeway in terms of the headroom there. And we're actually going to talk a little bit about more cores and headroom as we come into some of your probably quite out-of-date iCave answers. But I do think those MacBooks might be coming in January or February. A little bit earlier than Apple normally does stuff, but makes sense to me. And I don't think they're going to press release them because we've got new chips in there. Doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, into your questions. Euri Tech asks, I gave answers, given that Twitter is in chaos at the time I'm writing this comment, what is next for Twitter? And this was, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, I've been away. But Twitter seems to have settled down a little bit, which is good. Alternatives, though, I am on Mastodon, and I am on Hive Social, I think it's called. I don't do much on them, but I'm there. Twitter seems like it's kind of calmed down and everyone's just like getting on with life now, so maybe we'll just stay on Twitter at icave_Dave. Tim Kinetix asks, if Apple go completely portless on the iPhone, wouldn't that negatively affect and impact charging speeds? I agree that very few people use a cable to transfer data from their phone, and so data speeds are unimportant, but slow charging might put off consumers. Right now, I think the maximum that you can charge an iPhone at is 20 watts, and the MagSafe puck does 15, so I don't think it's going to be a massive difference. However, they could uprate MagSafe for the next generation. That's a possibility. They could also care about your battery health, which everyone on the internet seems to do these weird rain dances of, oh, you only charge to 80 and then you only discharge to 20 and then you keep it in that sweet spot, and if you're not going to use it for a week, keep it at 70 and charge your phone, dude. But yeah, the more quickly you charge a phone, that is something that will degrade your batteries, so I think that Apple is probably not going to push into the high, like, 120 watt charging stuff. They only go up to 20 right now, as far as I know. I don't think it's a massive change to go to 15 or upgrade MagSafe a little bit. And on the same topic, Tim Kinetix says, another question on the portless iPhone, would Apple rely entirely on AirDrop and iCloud storage? If so, would Apple allow Android and Windows users to use AirDrop? Or might Apple find a way to transfer data via MagSafe via the U1 chip or some kind of near-field communication? Now, this is something that I've talked about for quite some time. I think it would be quite easy for them to put a U1 chip into the MagSafe puck. That can interact then with the U1 chip in the iPhone, and you can actually do really fast data over that. The other option, though, would be something like Cloud Drop, which is what Apple uses. So if you want to send a large file via email, it will basically upload the file to iCloud, send a link, and then they download it from the web. That way, that is probably, in most cases as well, a lot quicker than using the cable, because it does it all behind the scenes. That would be my guess. Evan Rogers asks, I've seen a lot of reports that Snapdragon's chip will be faster than the A16. Is Apple losing the lead, or is this just a dead cat bounce before A17 on 3nm? So from what I'm seeing, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is faster on multi-core. Like, it gets a score of 5225 versus the iPhone 13 Pro's 4719, but it is slower on single core still. So Apple has still got the best in terms of IPC and in terms of the efficiency and things like that. what it looks like is Snapdragon is throwing more cores at it. That seems to be what's going on there, which is not a huge leap of some sort. It's just a case of if you put more cores in, basically like an M series chip, you're going to get better multi-core performance. However, it is going to impact things like battery life, and it's going to heat up more and things like that. So it's a good step, and it's good to have competition. I don't think Apple's in trouble, and as soon as we hit like the 3nm stuff, absolutely blowing this away. I mean, just by going to that, you get 40% basically increase in either efficiency or performance, which Apple would probably split, maybe go 20-20. Either way, they're still way beyond. The Blob asks, I gave answers, hey Dave, can you access your home network securely from your iPhone, iPad, or MacBook while out and about? Is it safe to run your server, the Mac Mini, all the time for this purpose? This is something that we are going to be doing. This is something that I'm going to be hopefully addressing with the Project 91, which is still coming. I had to wait for some power supply stuff to come for the display. Fingers crossed that's going to work. Hopefully we'll be addressing that very soon. Stay tuned. Team Kinetix asks, IKM answers, it looks as though Amazon could be laying off thousands of employees as Alexa is losing the company money. Do you think that Siri might be next, or might Apple use the opportunity to improve Siri and make Siri the digital assistant we all need? Right, the reason that Siri has always kind of lagged behind Google Assistant and Alexa is basically privacy. Apple is far more focused on not sending all of your details to the cloud and having it all accessible, rather than going for the deep integration with everything that you do. So I think that's the biggest difference. I don't think that Apple is in any way losing money on Siri. Siri is kind of sold as a feature of the iPhone, so I guess that kind of R&D budget is all built into iPhone and Mac and HomePod budgets. So I don't think there's any dramas there, but I think that the issue is where Amazon have basically made bargain basement hardware that they can sell at a loss and then recoup from, hopefully, people buying stuff using Alexa. Apple is not going down the shopping route. They're not going down that route. They are charging a fair price for the hardware that they sell and not building in the services revenue to subsidize the product. So I think that's where the difference comes, and I think they're safe. And the last question for this show, iCave answers, this is from Team Kinetix again. Now that DaVinci Resolve is available on iPad, and Apple excitedly announced it with the M2 iPad Pro announcement, do you think Apple will leave Pro apps to third parties rather than bringing their own professional applications to the iPad? I think what might be happening here is that Apple is using this as a bit of a test bed to see if there is demand for it, and then potentially bringing things like Final Cut and Logic, or, basically Logic would be GarageBand Pro for the iPad. I think that might be what they're doing. GarageBand for the iPad and iOS is very different to GarageBand for the Mac, in terms of the way that it works, in terms of the fact that it's more about kind of throwing loops together rather than actual audio editing as much. But I think that might be what they do. And that's it for this show on the Apple side of things. Now, just a quick update on me. I think part of the reason that I've not been here, last week my family were all horribly feverish. They were all high temperatures, like 40 degrees C, which is a lot Fahrenheit. So that was a huge distraction from what I was trying to get on with. But obviously, you kind of have to put family first. But also the fact that I really enjoy the job I have now, so I don't feel like I have to make a video every day to kind of feel like I've achieved something, because I really like what I'm actually doing for my job. That doesn't mean that I'm going to neglect the channel at all. It's just, obviously coming up to Christmas in the drinks industry, it's a bit of a busy time, so apologies if things are a little bit sporadic this side of Christmas. Hopefully, as we get into January, things will calm down a little bit, and I can get back to making a bit more regular videos. I will be throwing some more stuff out there. I've got a whole bunch of products that have been sent over to review. However, one of the things that I hate is when you get sent a product, and then 3 days later they're like, "Where's the review?" It's like, I've barely used it. So I take a little bit more time with using stuff in my daily life. Like, we've got a bunch of stuff here from Joby that I want to talk about, especially now Casey Neistat's just been doing some videos about Joby. We've got an ice cream maker that plugs into USB. We've got all sorts of stuff. We've got a bunch of earpods up here that I need to review. We've got some speakers that have been sent over by Edifier, but they're probably going to go into Project 91 as well, which is be quite cool, so we have really good sound. Yeah, there's loads of stuff going on. There are videos coming out soon, but I also want to clear some space in this office because we've got rid of the door that was over there, and then this door is not going to be a door anymore, and then that bit over there where I've got shelves, that's going to be a door again. There's loads of stuff happening, so stand by. There's loads to see. Thank you to the Patreons, the ones that are left. I don't blame the ones that abandoned me. We'll see you in the next one. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.